What's goody, everybody? The Jazz just made a really interesting trade. Do I understand it? Not really, but I guess there is a gray area where it makes sense to me. But for all of you who are saying that Chris Paul to the Warriors didn't make sense because of the fit, John Collins to the Jazz is terrible for fit. And I'm someone that will defend the fits and whatnot. But here's my problem with it. The Jazz got an absolute steal at pick number 9 in Taylor Hendricks. Now, if you've watched my videos, you know I think Taylor Hendricks is a modern day version of Kevin Garnett. And I think he has the potential to be a top 5 player in the draft class. I personally had him ranked higher than Brandon Miller, and he was my 4th ranked prospect overall. So I think Taylor Hendricks is going to be a future all-star in this league. And then you also have to consider the fact that Lauri Markkanen just had an all-star season and is emerging onto the scenes as an NBA all-star. And then you have to think about it as the fact that both of those players, Hendricks and Markkanen, play the power forward position, which is coincidentally the position that John Collins plays. And you just traded for John Collins, and he makes more than both of those two players do combined. So I am highly questioning the fit and decision making process that went into acquiring him. Um, you're giving up Rudy Gay to future picks, I think. And that's just a little bit worrisome, the future picks. But this Jazz team just needs to figure out if they're rebuilding or not. Because John Collins is kind of just proven that he's not ready to contend. He's not ready to compete. He's a player that's going to need a little bit more time. And the Hawks accelerated and John Collins kind of fell off. But there was a lot of potential, and that's the reason he's on the contract that he's on. It's not like John Collins has been garbage his whole career. It's just he's had a bad 2 years, and there's a lot of factors that play into that. And if you're the Jazz, the only real reason I see you acquiring John Collins is honestly if you're going to trade Lauri Markkanen, which I don't think is going to happen. But I know a lot of you casuals are like, oh, John Collins or Markkanen or Hendricks can play the 5. But the thing is, they already have their 5 man, and it's Walker Kessler. And the idea for the Jazz going into draft night, they're set up. So this is just my personal opinion. They're looking to have 2 combo guards that can score the ball and have 3 tall front court players that are switchable and can shoot. Now, Walker Kessler is not a great outside shooter, but he's the anchor of the defense going forward. Taylor Hendricks, phenomenal defender, phenomenal two-way player, shot 40% from 3. Lauri Markkanen, phenomenal shooter, double-double guy. I wouldn't say that he's a remarkable defender, but he can definitely hold his own. And then with the 2 guards, they just drafted Keontae George, who I think is the steal. The Jazz had the best draft, in my opinion. A lot of people are going to say the Rockets. No, it was the Jazz, because even as trash as I think Bryce Sensabaugh is going to be, getting him at 28 is kind of steal in a regard. He went 28, right? Either way, he went late 20s, and that's a steal. Like, a lot of people had him top 14 on their big boards. I personally didn't, but he has a lot of offensive upside. Now, I think he's going to be a 6 man at his peak, and like now, if you're the Jazz, you can move on from Jordan Clarkson. You can move on from Colin Sexton. Getting rid of those 2 guys to your rebuild is strong right now. And you just got John Collins, who he needs high level minutes. He needs a lot of minutes in order to pan out. But at his position, Taylor Hendricks, Lauri Markkanen are there already. And they already have them interchanging at the 3 and the 4. And I just don't see a lot of minutes for John Collins. And his contract is $20 million, $25 million. I forget how much is per season. But John Collins is a very expensive player to have come off your bench. That's not really a 6 man, a legitimate 6 man. And that's my real takeaway of it. It just doesn't really make sense if you're the Jazz to make this trade. But there's also a world where they trade Lauri Markkanen, and I don't think Markkanen's value is ever going to be higher than it is right now. Oh, so you might as well just trade Markkanen right now, get what you can for him, because you have a really good rebuild coming forward. The Jazz are like low key coming up. I'm gonna make a at the end of the offseason, I'm gonna make teams I'm most excited for. The Jazz are definitely on that list. Now, I don't think they're gonna be good next year. They're definitely not a playing team, but Keontae George, Taylor Hendricks, Laurie Markkinen, Walker Kessler, you got a core four right there. Now, I know three of them are front court players, but they can play both sides of the ball and they're as tall as they are. It's going to be a nightmare for teams to defend. And this team is going to look really good going forward. But now they have to deal with John Collins' contract. And that's just like my only concern with this. However, I am optimistic about John Collins. I just don't think this is really the right fit. So I give this trade a D minus for the Utah Jazz. And then the Hawks, you get picks. You finally get rid of that contract. Now, I'm going to tell you this right now. The Hawks are either going to make a splash via free agency or the trade market. And only time is going to tell that. But that's just an easy prediction. But the Hawks get a B plus in this trade. Actually, they get an A minus because there were no suitors for John Collins, because any team that needs what John Collins brings is a team that's ready to compete, but the Hawks weren't going to get anything in return. Like, that's why they had to trade him to the Jazz, I guess. But it's whatever. The Hawks are going to have a big three. They're going to get another star. They already have enough young wings. They could make a trade. Sorry, the allergies are really bad right now, bro. Like, I can not breathe out my nose. But anyways, that's just what I want to say about the John Collins trade. It's a bad trade for the Jazz, but I am really excited about the Jazz's future. So I'm not really concerned about this trade. They do need salary filler in a way and a lot of things. But I would be interested to see if Laurie Markkinen is traded from the Jazz, because his value is never going to be higher. Or maybe a Walker Kessler is traded, since he's also got a lot of value right now. But I think things are bright in Utah, but they kind of just worried me with this trade a little bit. And then you look at the Hawks and you're like, you finally did what you want to do. So you can't really give them a bad grade, but they did put themselves in that situation by signing John Collins to that large of an extension when his value was at the peak, knowing that you were hesitant about even extending him for that much. So the Hawks are going to get not an A plus for this trade because they kind of put themselves in that situation in the first place. Thank you for watching this video. And as always, it's been Bold Hoops with Jay Hoopa. The winners of the draft is going to be coming out tomorrow now, assuming there's no big trade. I'm trying to keep it to one video a day for y'all, but we'll see what happens. Bye.